So yeah, music is something that brings people together. Also, somehow I feel happy when I listen to sad music.
It's easy to feel happy and you don't really need camaraderie, but it's when you're feeling down that it's great to know that someone else feels that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for joining us for a very special edition of Life and Surround. A while ago, I kicked off a series called Quest for the Best Albums Around the World. And I'm super excited to be talking today to a friend of mine. His name is Alán Sanchez, and he is from Monterrey, Mexico. And he is here to share with us what it's like to be a music aficionado from his region. So we're going to get a bit of his background, and then we're going to kind of get his take on the music industry in his area, and then also his favorite records. And I think we'll be focusing on records that are local or special to his region, but then also if there are any, favorites from, elsewhere in the world that have made inroads into his area. So without anything further from me, I want to give you over to Alán so that we can learn more about the music that he cares about.
All right. It's very nice meeting you via Zoom meeting, if you will. Thank you for the time. Thank you for this invitation. I do appreciate. Um, so I'm trying to think of when we started to get to know, and I can give you I mean, I take my hat off for starting your YouTube channel, because that's how I knew about you, which you led me to the Quadrophonic Quad, and now I'm a member, an active member of that forum. So thanks for that. It's very cool to find your place in a niche where you think you're the only one there, but you're not alone. There are other people around the world. So it was very cool. So, like you might say, my name is Alán Sanchez. I live, born and raised here in the Monterrey, Mexico, which is, I'll say, 2 hours away by driving to the States, to Texas. So, all everything, ever since I have a memory of, I've been going back to Texas for family trips, for vacations. I just came back from a trip to Austin. And somehow Monterrey is very, very Americanized. It's an industrial city, unlike some other cities in Mexico. So I'll say the biggest cities in Mexico are number one, Mexico City, number two, Guadalajara, number three, Monterrey. So ranking in that order. And it also, in terms of music, it's ranked that way. Concert wise, most of the big acts go exclusively to Mexico City, and sometimes they come to Guadalajara and Monterrey as well. So we still have good acts here in Monterrey in terms of concerts, in terms of music, in terms of labels, studio recording as well. So I have some friends in the business who are either sound engineers or musicians, and they have opened me to that niche or that world within the city, and I've become familiar with that. Um,
Now,
so yeah,
do you travel to the other cities as well?
yeah, I do so much traveling, mostly to Mexico City or the States, I mean, San Antonio or Houston or Austin. That's where I usually do my traveling for gigs.
So
I
in any of the cities that you frequent, what would you say would be like a top show that you've seen?
for thinking of Mexico City, I've seen so many in Mexico City. One would be Royal Waters, The Wall.
Nice.
It didn't make it to here. I've seen Roy Waters many times here in Monterrey, but not that specific concert. That's one on top of my head. And the other one, it's one from last year, Porcupine Tree. It was insane.
Excellent. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit talking about my surroundings. What's the most popular music here in Mexico and in Monterrey? Right now, I'll say it's between urban music, which is here in Mexico, we call it reggaeton. I guess the biggest act right now is Bad Bunny. It sells out arenas and stadiums in the US, in Mexico. Not really my cup of tea. And the other one, which is not either my cup of tea either, it's banda or regional music. They call it regional, which is a big band, say 10, 15 guys who play from trombones to French horn to clarinets. And the music is very speed, at a very speed BPM and heartbreaking lyrics and whatnot. So, and that kind of music, it's somewhat, I mean, the music aficionados of that genre many times are people who enjoy or related to the narcos thing. So
okay.
Yeah, so that's not my thing either. But there's a big scene here in Monterrey for pop music, for rock music, for international music as well. We just had 2 weeks ago a big festival. It's Monterrey's biggest festival. It's a 3-day event with I'll say more than 100 acts, and the headliners in this year were Billie Eilish, The Killers, 21 Pilots, and from there it's more of a Latin American act. So sometimes I've heard people calling Mexico the hub for Latin American music, for especially in Spanish. So if let's say Venezuelan or Colombian or Spanish guy wants to make it into Latin America, they start with Mexico as their target. So that's something that you learn once you get off or abroad. I mean,
so Rick Beato just did a video on the current top 10 songs worldwide for Spotify, and I want to say more than half were Latin, even with Spanish singing at times, or at least like a Latin based rhythm, or in certain kinds of chording or instrumentation. And then certainly the names of the artists and the albums were Latin. And it was funny to hear Rick try to say these words. He definitely needs to brush up on his Espanol.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like what sounds to me like classic Latin influence, like flamenco kind of sounds, and for instance, but with like you said, like urban or modern sorts of rhythms, instrumentation, trap beats and stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Rick is right. I'm a huge fan of his work and his channel as well. I just saw his tour around Abbey Road. It was very interesting.
I haven't watched that yet.
You should.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, so yeah, he's right. I mean, European music has made it into the world, and I believe there was a time back in the 90s where many Italian guys were singing in Spanish and were huge hits here in Mexico. To name a few, Laura Pausini, Gianluca Rigani, Eros Ramazzotti. So those all were Italians trying to, or not trying, singing in Spanish. And I think it's coming back in waves, like every 10 years or 15 years. I don't know. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but at least I give a nod to that, because I will like to think, or I will wish that that wave translates to other genres, which has been going on. Many people who have been trying here in town. So I'll just later on, after I discuss or I mention the albums that have made an impact in me, I could give some honorable mentions to some local bands and some that are already touring with Muse, for instance. So from here, from this town. So
yeah, and I'm going to be providing links to the albums, that you highlight, so that people can go check them out for themselves. Now, for you personally, do you tend to stream, listen to CDs, cassettes, vinyl? What makes you tick?
it's between streaming, Apple Music, and CDs. I'm still playing CDs. Waterloo Records, a big record store in Austin. They've got a bunch of CDs. They are now with Amazon. They opened Amazon Mexico. It opened a few years back, and it was easier to get international reported albums. So
Now,
so
you and I are both into surround music.
right.
What would be your typical media for that? Like DVD,
Either
Blu-ray? Yeah.
physical or streaming now
Okay.
with Apple Music.
Yeah, so like for spatial audio, you have taken to that. Do you find it enjoyable, and do you find it accessible?
I do find it accessible. To be honest, I haven't listened to any of these sound bars that they say that it's Dolby Atmos. I haven't.
Oh,
But my setup consists of 7.1, 7.1.4.
oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
that's where
you got the full Atmos array for your house.
right.
And so you are occasionally streaming in Atmos.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like many people in Quadrophonic Quad, I relate to what they say. So it depends on the mixing. Some albums are top notch, like the Van Morrison or the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon that I saw that you review it. But many are just, and this comes from first-hand experience from a guy who masters in engineering in masters here in Monterrey. He told me that Apple Music is pushing the labels to mix in Atmos just for the sake of it, just many hits at a day, and many of the sound engineers, they are just doing it for the sake of it, not pushing the boundaries or doing what it should be, what the format asks to do.
So a while ago, you sent me a list of around a half a dozen albums that you love. I checked them out, at least streaming, and enjoyed something about all of them, and then was able to secure a copy of Rodrigo y Gabriela.
Yeah.
Listened to that last night with my mom, and we loved it. So I want you to share with everyone else some recommended albums.
Right. I have a list of 5 albums, just to make it short. So I'll start with Caifanes, El Nervio del Volcán. This album came out in 1994. Is one of the most representative albums of the band, from bands in Mexico. And this is one band that's still active. They changed their name around the mid of their career to Jaguares. And this album to me is where they made a statement, a bold statement. We have evolved. This is what it sounds to me. Some may refer to Caifanes as the Mexican The Cure. This is the last album with Alejandro Markovich, which is the guitarist, and he plays a huge role in this album from composing wise. And the band consists of Saúl Hernandez, who is the singer, Alfonso André, who is the drummer, Alejandro Markovich, and this is a funny fact. Adrian Bellew, you might have heard of him,
Of
from
course.
King Crimson.
Yeah.
He was the producer of this album. So it was a highly acclaimed album. It won platinum certifications, and it's one of those albums which takes you through the journey from start to finish. It's a very theatrical album, and it has a lot of features of special artists that contributed to it, such as Stu Ham. This guy plays with Jose Triani. He's the bass player.
Yeah, that's
Lenny
right.
Castro, he's a percussionist. He'll play with Toto. Jerry Goodman with Dixie Dregs, with Derek Sherinian, former member of Dream Theater. And it has all from percussion to guitars to everything, inspirational lyrics and all time signatures here and there. So that's why it's good in my heart, this album.
Sounds a little proggy.
Yeah, it is. If you force it and you pay close attention, you'll get the prog out of it.
I like it. Cool.
All right. So moving forward with the next album, this is hit or miss from people in Mexico. I mean the band. It's called Maná. They fill arenas in the U.S., in Latin America, Mexico as well. It's a band that will divide. Some may find it corny or cheesy, but I have a very nostalgic and good memories of the good old days of the time when I believe they were in the pinnacle of their career. Right. So this is a band that has a high trajectory. They have been going on for more than 2 decades. And this is an album that was recorded in 1997. I believe I already mentioned that, but it was recorded in Puerto Vallarta Beach in Jalisco. And this album won Grammy for the year, Latin American Grammy for the year. It's another album that takes you through different genres, from bossa nova to pop to ballads to rock. The guitarist Sergio Ballin, he's highly influenced by by Santana. They even went on a tour later on. And yeah, so one thing that I enjoy about this album as well is the cover. And I'm always, whenever I buy an album, I pay close attention from both the lyrics, the music, and also the artwork. If it's a good album, it's a good to have. It's a cherry on the top for me.
I agree. I was in a record store with my 5-year-old son a few weeks ago, and his patience was wearing thin after a few minutes. So I asked him to go look at records himself and bring me any album cover that was just wacky or funny or just really stood out to him. And he brought me some real gems, including like Tom Morello's latest record.
Oh yeah, you mentioned
this
Atlas
neon, neon elephant with butterflies wings for ears. And I've discovered 3 albums that I really love now based on the cover. It happens.
Yeah, you never know where it will lead to. So yeah, and funny fact of this album as well is that the cover, it's a girl, naked girl with 4 hands, and she's a siren. And this girl, I believe she's the wife of Spanish prime minister or former prime minister. Yeah, it ended up years after, but yeah, just a side note there.
Cool.
Moving forward with the third album, and before I start with this album, I just want to make sure, or just to get it out, that these albums might not be, some may and some may not be huge albums that were huge, that sold many records, but there are good. There are albums that are good in my soul, and albums that somehow I have good memories, and somehow they were the soundtrack of my early days or my teenage days. So that's why they're good. So, okay, moving forward with Molotov. Molotov, Dónde Jugarán las Niñas, which is tongue-in-cheek for a name of an album name of Maná. And this was a groundbreaking album, which was released in 1997, and it was their debut album as well. And it won many gold and platinum certifications. Uh, this was a bold statement of not being political correct. So you'll hear uh, curses, you'll hear um, many references to politics, to social issues that were happening in Mexico back then, and some of them are still uh, current and they still happen. So yeah, the drummer of this band, he's American, so they have this Spanglish thing going on, where sometimes he's the singer, he's throwing lines in English, and then the other guys sing in Spanish. And it to me, they are think of putting Rage Against the Machine, Fate No More, and Beastie Boys in a melting pot. That's what it's like. And Primus as well. So they're very,
That's a good blend.
yeah, yeah. So they're very rock oriented. They integrate. What I like about this album is that they integrate some local instruments like marimbas, uh, and phrases as well, or rhythms. They integrated very well. And the producer of this album is Gustavo Santaloya, who was a big producer for Latin American bands back in the 90s. Café Tacuba, Enanitos Verdes, these guys. So yeah, this was a huge album. From the cover, it's a girl pulling off her miniskirts. So you know that you're into something that will be kind of revealing and groundbreaking, not political correct. Okay. Uh, okay, so the next album is from a local band who made it big in the 90s. Well, this was actually released early 2000s, 2001. It's called Zurdok, and the album is called Maquillaje, which translates to makeup. Also, a good album that has a very good cover, and is a band that is no longer active. They split. It to me, all throughout their career, this is the album that it's the most underrated. They have some other that were big, but this one was very underrated to me. They were from it's very keyboard oriented, this album, and they record in Capitol Studios in LA. This album, and it's an album that has so many details, so many arrangements with different instruments. So that's what I like. And the wax the lyrics are wax poetically very spiritual, very subjective. So that's another thing that I appreciate of artists doing. Sometimes I like very lyrical and objective, and it to me comes to, I mean, I can think of Sun Kill Moon, which are very, I don't know if you have heard of them. They're very deep and particular stories about him, but there are some other stories that anyone can relate to, like Neil Peart's lyrics. So this is one of those. And some of the instruments that are part of this are like bassoon, flute, harp, cello, French horn, percussion. So it's all around.
Sounds very orchestral.
Yes, they have instrumental parts, but also the singer, he's very Oasis and Beatles influence. So
Okay.
you'll hear a lot of that background vocals and harmonies, that kind of stuff.
Influenced by Britpop.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I like that you dug an album out that like wasn't just the bestseller, but one that as a fan you know about. Like I could be that way with Rush. I wouldn't necessarily recommend someone to listen to Moving Pictures because there's albums that I just love more.
Like, yeah, I totally, and even within the albums, there might be songs that you enjoy most, which might be B-sides or songs that didn't even make it to the radio back then, and it all depends on the taste. This is number 4. This is the one that you already notched at the beginning of, Rodrigo and Gabriela. I've seen them 2 times, I believe, and they're an acoustic duo. Duo. They wear their influences under their sleeve, from metal to flamenco to rock, and they do covers all from ranging from Metallica to Pink Floyd to Muse to Led Zeppelin, etc. So
Yeah.
they're prophets of their own land. They're not big here in Monterrey or even Mexico. They're not that big. I mean, they play here, but they're big. They sell, not, I wouldn't say stadiums, but arenas in the US. They tour in Europe as well, I believe, in Asia as well.
I've seen footage from some pretty big shows.
Yeah.
They seem to be doing all right.
They opened back in 2004 or 6, I don't recall well, to Muse. And their songs have been featured in so many TV shows, from Breaking Bad to Entourage to Dancing with the Stars, I'm sorry. And they composed the soundtrack, I mean, not the soundtrack, the score of one of the Pirates of the Caribbean films, featuring, it was a mixed collaboration between Hans Zimmer and them. So it's quite interesting. And they I recall Peter Gabriel once said in an interview that sometimes when the limitations, sometimes limitations can bring the best of you. So to me, that's a great example of this band. They just have two acoustic guitars with nylon strings, and they play the heck out of them. From doing percussion by hitting the body, the hollow body of the guitar, to also uh, giving different lines or rhythms or harmonies. One, especially in the covers, one is doing the line and the other one is doing the melody. So
yeah, and I noticed that it seemed like one might be covering the lower register and one covering the upper register.
My last album is Café Tacvba, huge band in Mexico, huge, but this is also another case of one of the underrated albums called El Objeto antes Llamado disco. They have been going on for more than 30 years, and they follow, I don't know if you've heard this Steven Wilson mindset, which it's evolving, not repeating themselves within each album. And this is a classic example of that. This album is folklore. It has a very strong personality. It's very melodic. It has stories within each song. It follows stories, and has so many Hispanic sounds. So all the members of this band, they do compose. The band is formed by 3 guys, and they play in big stadiums and festivals and whatnot. So those are very good in my heart. And that's how I will wrap it up of the albums that made an impact.
You said you might have some honorable mentions.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out. I have some honorable mentions of albums, more of local bands, and some friends of mine. Some are in English. Most of them are in English, but there are still some in Spanish. One is Buffalo Blanco, a band from a friend of mine. Their debut album called Shaken City. It was released in 2011, and it's very Beatles oriented, very folk oriented as well. So you might enjoy that one. Next one is The Warning. They're making it big in the States. Their last album is called Error 2022. It was released just this last year. It was a big hit. They have so many fan clubs around the world, and they're opening for Muse in this summer. They have opened for many huge acts, like Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Motley Crue. They're big. There are three sisters. They sing in English, and it's a drummer, singer, and guitarist, and the bass player and singer as well. It's a trio. And last but not least, it's a friends of mine band. It's called The Five Rules. That's the name of the band. And the album is called White Noise, English language album. And it was released in 2011. And if you enjoy Marillion, I would think that you will like this album. It's very Marillion-esque. This guy, his bangers when composing, he composed it all, and he hires musicians so they can play in their album. So it's a very good. So that's how we'll wrap it up.
I appreciate you sharing these albums so much. And in case anybody has had a hard time hearing or is doesn't know how to spell some of the albums or the artists, I'm going to get your notes and I'll put the information down about as many records as I can in the description. And and if we can, links where these albums can be found.
Sure.
So if you wouldn't mind, just like what's your closing thoughts? Like just a little bit about like what music means to you, and particularly the music that you hold special.
Woo! Music takes a big part of me. It has been in my DNA ever since I started growing up. My dad gave my brother a drum kit in one Christmas, and he wasn't that interested in that, so that's why I got the interested in, and I took lessons, and the rest is history. I've taken harmony classes as well. I've been participating in some friends' albums as a drummer, and music. It's I make many decisions based on that, whether family vacations or which music I will listen to. To me, like one artist that I'm right now, it's blowing my mind. It's Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Oh my
I mean,
God, I love them.
oh man, his lyrics are just out of this. I mean, I can relate to many of those lyrics.
And
And
he's got tons of albums in surround, right?
he has a few, but not the ones that I enjoy the most, like
Not recent
Skeleton
ones,
Tree.
as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
Skeleton
Bad Seeds, I
Tree.
think there's around 10.
Yeah, from the early days. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, music is something that brings people together. It's something that can make you enjoy music the most. Also, somehow I feel happy when I listen to sad music. It's a contradictory or oxymoron thing to say, but
That's a Steven Wilson philosophy right there.
right, yeah.
But yeah, it's easy to feel happy and you don't really need camaraderie, but it's when you're feeling down that it's great to know that someone else feels that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I absolutely appreciate you taking your time not only to research the records that you wanted to talk about and to spend time today. And I know that you and I will continue to share, our love of music, just, personally, but then also sharing your love of music with everyone around the world. That is exactly why I started Life in Surround, because music can be inherently lonely if you set up your system in your house and you're just sitting there and maybe your family isn't into it as much, or your friends don't understand, why you love 5.1 or Atmos, but then you get the opportunity to share it with a huge community.
Right.
Quadraphonic Quad has been super important to me and still is. And then, various Facebook groups or, Reddit, and then just meeting friends, so I just absolutely value you sharing some insight about these records, but also, just the friendship we've been building, that means everything to me.
No, for sure. And the feeling is mutual. I appreciate the time. and music. I can relate to you, and I'm pretty sure on any given weekend, if you have the time with you were telling me about your mom, just to sit through and listen to an album is something that it's not a common thing nowadays, and it used to be. So it's good that you continue with that tradition and that you want to exposure some cultures or some music to the world. So I thank you for that, and we'll continue with this friendship, like you said, and we'll continue. We'll keep in touch, recommending albums and whatnot.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, my friend. And for everyone else, I appreciate you watching. And you know all the good stuff. Like, subscribe, all that. And most importantly, live life in stereo or surround.